Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to the club. Now, we are sponsored by the wonderful people over at Super 6. Now, I love this game, and I'm not going on like I'm Patrice Evra, but Super 6 is absolutely fantastic. I've been playing it for years, taking on Jeff Stelling and all those guys. And listen, you can join our league, Club S6, on the Super 6 app. You can download that on your App Store, your Play Store, or whatever, and you can get stuck in. Now, if you get 6 correct score lines, you could win £250,000. And not only that, if you're in our league, which make sure you're joining Club S6, and you finish that round on the top of our league, you could win 100. In fact, you will win £100 classic football shirts voucher. So make sure you're joining our Super 6 League, Club S6 on the app, and we'll see you in the league. Don't worry, you're not going to finish above me, so you might not have to worry about that voucher. Anyway, let's get stuck into this video.
You're watching a clip from the Club podcast.
Make sure you follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review.
So here you go. Here's a lovely clip from our podcast. Frank Lampard is currently Chelsea caretaker manager. Next up for Chelsea is Mauricio Pochettino. Now, I've seen some of your reaction to it, although I don't get some of your reaction to it. So I want to find out more. First off, for those that don't know, what are your initial thoughts and what's your initial gut feeling to the news Mauricio Pochettino is the next Chelsea manager?
I think overall it's fairly uninspiring. And I think it's also fairly worrying. So the reason that I'm anti the move, don't get me wrong, when Mauricio Pochettino is announced as Chelsea manager, I will of course pledge total support to him. I will of course be desperate for him to win. I will give him nothing but 100% backing. And I really hope that it works out. I would love to be wrong on this. But my reservation is twofold. Firstly, Tottenham. I think tribalism matters in football. I think rivalry matters in football. And Mauricio Pochettino is the personification of Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham and Chelsea are as big a rival as you can possibly be. Regardless of what's been going on at Chelsea, this is when Chelsea were very good, when Chelsea were very bad, and then even pre-existing that. The one constant at the club has been a hostility to Tottenham. Chelsea fans dislike everything to do with Tottenham.
For those that want to kind of get a taste for it, we can all remember that game between Chelsea and Spurs at the Bridge,
which was Pochettino.
Yeah,
and that should be Pochettino's lasting memory at Stamford Bridge. Pochettino should be crying in the away dressing room with Danny Rose. That's where I think Pochettino is. That's who Pochettino is. He shouldn't be in the home dressing room trying to get wins out of Chelsea. In the daylight, though, don't you think you're being a little bit harsh? Yeah, almost definitely. I'm a Chelsea fan and I'm a tribal Chelsea fan. I'm not going to approach this like a businessman with a business mind. I'm going to approach it with loyalty. I'm going to approach it with loyalty and blind love of my team. But there is also a second strand to this conversation. I think this is an interesting one to debate, but I don't rate Pochettino as highly as everyone else. And I think that the Pochettino...
Well, you don't rate him as highly as me.
I don't rate him as highly as you. And I also don't... I also think that his appointment is slightly worrying. Here's for why. What Pochettino's good at, what people tell me he's very good at, is cultivating young talent, bringing young talent through, nurturing footballers. That model is a worrying one for Chelsea because that isn't really Chelsea's model. And if our methodology now is to nurture, ultimately it would suggest that we're going to nurture and sell. So we aren't going to be the best. We aren't going to try and compete with Guardiola. We aren't going to try and win the league. What we're going to do is try and become profitable.
But Chelsea do have one of the best academies in world football.
But it seems to me, with an appointment like Pochettino, when Chelsea were brilliant, when Chelsea were at our very best, so we won back-to-back leagues.
No, but Chelsea at their very best combined, young English talent, whether you bought it or it came through your system. Ashley Cole, Frank Lampard still fall into that box. And, good investment. Chelsea combined those two things at their best.
But my worry with Pochettino is that, how they constantly buying young players, this focus on the youth, young. I want all of the players are aged between 18 to 22 and all that, right? Yeah. I totally disagree with that. Because I think that the reasoning is to sell them on. Ultimately, what happens is you sign Enzo Fernandez, Pochettino develops Enzo Fernandez, and Enzo Fernandez, when he's in his pomp, is sold to Real Madrid for 200 million quid. I think that is the method. Whereas if you bring Luis Enrique in, somebody who will compete with Guardiola, you bring Luis Enrique in, then you sign the best player of today, not the best player tomorrow or the best young player. Like this whole focus on kids.
Don't you want a Chelsea team that
I just don't get
blood its youth though? Does use it, like for example, we're immediately hearing now Mason Mount, who's been linked with Liverpool very closely for the last 5 months. We're now hearing he's possibly going to stay at Chelsea. I thought that would have been something you would have been.
Oh no, I'd love Mason Mount to stay, but I think Mason Mount is one of our best players. But that's why I wanted to stay, not because he's a young player.
But that's just one of the examples. So he's going to nurture the youth and the talent that you've already got within your system, which is huge. You guys are always competing for the European trophies and the FA Youth Cup and this, that and the other. Like you're always competing for that. So you have got the youth and you've also got the ability to sign. When we say young players, we can also include Mudryk in that, Enzo in that. These are young, talented players that need nurture.
But they're not the finished article. And for Chelsea to have a chance of winning the league, for Chelsea to compete with Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, we need to be signing the best players, not the best young players.
I think you'll sign a combination of that, though. Because that's what Chelsea demand.
But we're not. What you need is, you know, this 18 to 22 or 18 to 25. What Chelsea need isn't that. What you need is, do you know what I would go? I would honestly say that to win a league, and it's 18 to 32. You know the way 32-year-olds are now. It's not like Paul Merson. It's like 32, you peak. That's what we need.
But you're not going to get immediate success.
You know what I find so frustrating as well? You know that misnomer when people go, you don't win anything with kids, when Hansen said it. He was right. You don't win anything with kids. And he was right about that team. That team, yeah, okay, you had Beckham in the team and I think Gary Neville was in the team. But the reason they won the league is because they had Cantona up front and Schmeichel and whatever. That team, by the time they actually won the treble, that's not the season that he was talking about.
But we mixed youth talent with ready-made talent.
Exactly.
You can do that
because you bought the best. Because the reason that Manchester United won in the you don't win anything with kids season was because they went and bought the best, one of the best players who won the league at Cantona. Well. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So the reason that you won the league wasn't the kids and bringing through the class of 92. It was Eric Cantona who won the league with Leeds, who was fantastic. Chelsea are in. And they have not scored, unsurprisingly. So no.
I just think you're looking at it from the wrong... Like, the way I would look at it is, I think he will place an importance on academy talent and young English talent or British talent, but they will be accompanied and complemented with some of the best talent that you'll be buying and recouping with the huge money that you have. But you also have to remember that you have to kind of nurture this talent, this academy talent, to be able to sell them on because of the FFP rules and all those kind of different things. But Poch, I think, one of the things for him at Spurs, and this is one of the reasons why when Manchester United needed a manager, I had two choices, Eric Ten Hag and Pochettino. I didn't care which one. I wanted one of them because those kind of managers are the future. They coach football, which is entertaining, progressive, mainly attacking, but also is tactically flexible in different kind of styles of games. But also they develop youth and they bring youth through, which is what I want my football club to be doing. But, you know, they're there with the modern managers and they compete with the modern managers. That's what you've got in Pochettino. And I think when you look at PSG and the case study there, it was difficult it's difficult for many managers. Tuchel even failed there. Tuchel's amazing, do you know what I mean? And when you look at him at Spurs, I don't think the demands were ever on him at Spurs to actually win the FA Cup or win the League Cup. We've seen what Daniel Levy wants now. He wants Champions League football to be able to get loads of like commercial deals and all these different things. And Pochettino is a guy that with the demands of the club to win trophies, but also develop youth. And I think with that, he probably feels rejected by Spurs now. So that's going to give him another bit of a driving factor.
I think that's the reason that he's... I
fear Chelsea next season and going forward.
I wouldn't fear Luis Enrique at Chelsea. I wouldn't fear them in the same way.
I don't think you need to fear Chelsea regardless, actually. I think that we're such a...
Next season,
I think there's some news, actually, in this. Elliot, have you got something to tell us here?
Yeah, breaking in the last...
don't say Forest have
5 minutes or so. No, so that's not a scoreline. It comes from the Telegraph, who are obviously quite reputable. Pochettino is not using an agent and he is negotiating the finer points of the Chelsea agreement himself.
Yeah, that's good.
Because last time
I like that.
He was there for talks last time when they appointed Potter, and apparently Chelsea couldn't make the promises that he would have, not wholesale control, but more control. And I think he's going to have more control over what happens with your academy. I think you should be really excited by this, bro. I think you've got that Spurs thing in your head and his past with Spurs in your head. But I actually think you love young English talent being developed at your club. You'll also love the football that he will play. And I think sooner rather than later, you will be laughing at Spurs fans saying, "We've taken your best manager, your greatest manager in your Premier League."
There is a dream. There is a dream. Like the idea of Pochettino winning silver. Look, I love the idea of any Chelsea manager winning silverware, but it would be especially sweet if Tottenham's greatest manager since Bill Nicholson won silverware at Chelsea and didn't win silverware at Tottenham. But this is the other question then: how good is Pochettino? Because let's remember, it's all very well to say how well they played and, they were the best team over the calendar year and whatever. But his Tottenham teams, they were good. And they should have won silverware and they didn't.
No, we look at
if
them
they're
like
good because of him, then they didn't win silverware because of him as well.
No, but they got to a point where they could potentially win, get to the Champions League. They don't get there without Pochettino. Pochettino was a huge part of that. And I
think if you look at the crop of managers that are doing well, De Zerbi at Brighton, you look at Thomas Frank at Brentford, even a little bit of Ten Hag, he's won something with Man United, however big that is. These are progressive young managers, relatively speaking. I think Pochettino is in that mould. I think he's in that mould. I think Chelsea needs someone. The last thing you need is Luis Enrique on a 2-year deal and he signs another 31-year-old or he signs a 29-year-old who's for 100 million quid. I think Pochettino at the very minimum, I get the Tottenham thing 1,000,000%. I can't speak for you about how you feel about it. Of course not. But all I'd say is if he gets Badiashile playing as a Chelsea player the next 3 or 4 years, playing out of his skin, for example, a young player, for example.
He'll get them players running through the
Imagine
brick
Sterling
walls
working
for him as
hard.
well.
That Spurs side that beat us in the Champions League quarter-final, I know it was a dramatic game. They were a serious side.
They weren't a serious side.
Mate, they were hard roars.
What do you mean they weren't?
They were hard to beat. They were a serious side. They beat us. They beat us.
They beat you.
We got 19.
You weren't particularly good in Europe then. Monaco beat you the following year.
No, they didn't. Not the following
Monaco
year.
beat you the previous year then.
No, that's not true either. But Liverpool,
Yes, I mean, look.
Liverpool beat us at the same point the season before. Liverpool beat us.
You lost to Lyon. You lost to Monaco. You
Why are
weren't.
you bringing that up? It
You
makes no
losing.
sense. It literally
Because
makes no
you're
sense to
saying they
argument.
beat us in Europe as if
That season we were incredible. We won a domestic treble that season,
Europe,
Rory.
you're shit.
We got to the quarter.
You lost to Tottenham in Europe. That doesn't make Tottenham good. That makes you shit.
but
Because
it
you're
makes
shit in
their-
Europe.
we- Tottenham's
we lost to
achievement
Real
was
Madrid
very
last
good.
season. So we lost to Real Madrid last season.
No, now
we
you're
just shit
bigger.
them.
Now you're bigger.
No.
Now
Honestly,
you've
that
learned
point,
and
you were
you've
great.
evolved.
But also,
You've learned and you've evolved.
It was a good result, Rory.
Rory, on that point, couldn't Pochettino have learned and evolved since his
But I
time
think
out
his
of football?
stock at Tottenham, I think his stock has actually diminished
That's
slightly.
good for you because he's now going to become your manager and be huge. What would
Why
you
is it good
think
if his stock's diminished? Why do I want somebody on the
he's
way?
got less to prove.
That is the issue.
And he's
PSG
he
time
can
was an
work
issue.
without all that.
The issue is Chelsea's more of a PSG than Spurs. That's the issue.
Lukaku and Poch. Do you think they should team up again? Do you think they could? How would you feel if he brought Lukaku back? Because there's been talk about that. Or would you like him to see go after Kane? What are you thinking about?
I'd love him to go after Kane, but I can't see it. Kane would never play for Chelsea, I don't think. But I would love it. I'd love him to. Look, I desperately hope it works. I just think that his time at Tottenham ultimately was failure. And the lack of silverware really does trouble me. It's all very well being a good team. It's all very well capturing the imagination of people like he clearly has done you two, weirdly. But ultimately, they lost the league. Ultimately, they lost the league to Leicester. Chelsea slapped them out of the FA Cup one year. Man United slapped them out of the Cup one year. Whenever they should have been good, they bottled it. His two moments with the Premier League club. His two moments. One of his moments with the Premier League club is losing the most one-sided Champions League final I've ever seen. His other moment with the Premier League club is crying and not winning the league when Leicester City won the league.
We talk
but
about
Arsenal
the
could have
Spurs
won that
effect.
league.
The Spurs effect has affected Conte, one of the most serial winners in football at the moment, Jose Mourinho. The Spurs effect is bigger than Mourinho, lads. So little old Pochettino, who's come from Southampton, he's unbelievable at Southampton. He was unbelievable in Spain. He won a cup with Espanyol.
Yeah? Like Rory, and I kind of see where Rory's coming from, and he goes, "Well, he never won nothing at Spurs." Conte went there, didn't do as well as Mourinho at Spurs. As Pochettino, Mourinho went there, didn't do as well as Pochettino at Spurs. Like he did really well at Spurs, considering.
Well, like, you know how he talks about the loyalty. Like he said, he never played for Barcelona, didn't he? He said he never managed Barcelona because of the Espanyol league.
Yeah.
Where's the loyalty?
Yeah,
I think the loyalty
Bang
would
on.
exist if it was Arsenal.
Yeah, but Chelsea during his time at Tottenham, the Chelsea rivalry was actually more significant.
Chelsea have been beaten by Brentford 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. West Ham have been beaten by Liverpool 2-1 at Olympic Stadium.
Yeah,
and
London
Man City
Stadium.
are currently beating.
I can't believe that we've been done by Brentford. I just can't. I just don't like. I love Lampard so much, but he's so bad at management now, isn't he? Like, oh my god. Like I love him so
finally
much.
got it.
But my God, he's a lovely fella. But he should just get in a studio now, earn a load of money, be bussed around, chauffeur driven, and talk about football in a studio with your mates. Like,
What is his next club? Like,
I don't
level?
think there is what a mate.
You really think he packs it in? I don't think he will. You're saying he should.
Do you know what I
but
think?
he won't, will he?
Maybe you're right, because do you know what I think the problem is? And you see it a lot in players like Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard. You know that will to win, that desire to get to the very top that served them so well in their playing career. Like Frank Lampard strove to be the best and wouldn't ever let people bring him down and wouldn't ever like had a never say die, never say no attitude. It served him so well as a footballer. But it's doing him such a disservice as a manager because he's adopting a similar thing here as a manager, and he's just got to pack it in. Like caretaker, he's like the Undertaker manager. I think we've scored one goal. He's managed us for 5 games and he scored 1 goal.
And that goal was a huge
And we lost.
deflection.
And we lost as well.
Yeah.
Like,
It's it's looking pretty bleak.
But this is what happens when you
it's
let
not
James
Frank
Corden pick your
Lampard's
managers.
fault. Yeah, it's not Frank Lampard's fault as well. Just like it's not Ryan Mason's fault or Stellini's fault. It's the decisions that have brought you to that position.
Yeah.
Now, the board have brought Frank Lampard in because they want to kind of chill the fans out.
yeah.
But when Frank Lampard starts to fail, the fans aren't going to blame Frank Lampard. They're going to make you the target. And that kind of amplifies the problems that the board have. So even though they've brought Lampard in to kind of be this buffer and this safety net between them and the fans, it's going to work the complete opposite
look at the
way.
text. Look at the text I've just got, like the most recent line
Can
of
I
the text.
read any of them out?
Yeah, I think the most recent line taps into what you've said. My
Okay,
mate who's at the game.
yeah, Frank ain't doing himself no favours and the fans are turning on the players here.
That's what's happening. Like my mate's in the ground, he's got the fans are turning on the players now. So you know what you were saying, like they're not going to blame Lampard. The board
And
are
they
up there.
shouldn't.
It's
not Lampard's fault.
No.
Maybe you can blame him for team selection on a day or a tactical thing. But Chelsea's ultimate issue isn't Frank Lampard's fault.
No, but do you know what? Do you think on any level? And look, I'm now of the opinion that Frank Lampard is done with. Like it's just not worked. It's not that man. But the Chelsea players should be doing better, shouldn't they? The players should be doing more. This crop of players are just so spineless. Like they're so lacking in any kind of like
I think the
personal
problem that
pride.
you have as well is, you know, when you've got a lot of new players in that dressing room and you even hear things like there's not enough space in the changing room for everyone. So some people are
Yeah, it's a mess,
separated
isn't
from it. Like, you know, if that's a dressing room where half of the squad's been there for the full, for the last 10 years. So they feel at home. They know what Chelsea's about. You've got a lot of people that don't even know
the way
how,
around.
They don't know. They don't know who that is.
Excuse me,
what
mate.
that
Where's
is.
the toilet?
Yeah, they don't know how Chelsea feels when they win.
Yeah.
So how do they revert back to old habits or anything when they haven't got them to reflect upon? I think there's just so many new people at Chelsea, and there's so many different issues. Like the amount of players that you've brought. This summer is going to be carnage at Chelsea. Who do you keep? Who do you sell? Who do you like? The manager's got such a problem on his hands in that sense, because he may go into the summer thinking, I want to keep him, I want to keep him, I want to get rid of him, I want to get rid of him. And then you get halfway through the summer and you realise, I can't get rid of him because no one wants him, I can't get rid of him, so I'm stuck with them. What do I do now? And you have to readjust your
The problem
target.
is as well, because of the way that a lot of our deals have been structured. Say Raheem Sterling, let's just use him as an example. I feel like he's been harshly treated by a lot of people, but let's just use Raheem Sterling. He won't get the deal that he's got at Chelsea anywhere else again.
Yeah.
So the money that he earns, like I think Raheem Sterling isn't a player that I want to leave, to be totally frank. I think he's one of our
I think
better
it'd be
players.
great for Poch.
He's one of our better players. But let's just pretend that Poch doesn't fancy him. You're not getting rid of him anyway. Where's he going to get that money again?
No, it's true. Yeah.
His next move.
It's what United did with a lot of players. We bring players in and we go, here's 200 grand a week, make sure we keep you. Here's a 5-year contract. In 2 years, they're not very good and we think they're not good enough. But now we can't get rid.
Yeah.
So now we're stuck with you on 200
Because the player would have to take half. Like let's use a Man United player for this then. maybe Harry Maguire's not a bad example. You know, if the manager wanted to get rid of Maguire's going to go, no, I quite like it here, and you can pay me.
I'm happy to be on the bench.
Yeah, of course I'm happy to be on the bench.
No, put me on loan then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, if you want to get rid of it, I'll go on loan.
Yeah.
But I'm not leaving permanently because
I'll have to halve my
contract
wages.
a lot.
Yeah.
And
I'll run it down as well, and then I'll get a good move.
I kind of don't blame the players in that instance because they're
a job, isn't it?
livelihood. Did you see Nemanja Vidic on Rio's podcast?
No.
He went, I wish I was there when Woodward was there. He was like, it's like, just hearing that blatant honesty from players is like, they
He was laughing about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like,
What,
and
he said,
I imagine,
He's like in a jovial
I imagine,
way.
the players that signed their new contracts under the previous ownership and they're there now.
Yeah.
They're probably like, should have waited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Todd Bowley would have chucked on
Yeah.
a few extra O's or whatever.
Yeah. Although weirdly, like he does it, like I think, who did I read about the other day? It might have been Enzo Fernandez. He's got, he's there for the next 3 decades anyway, and they've made it 4. They've extended it. You're just like, they've extended it.
I know. Yeah.
You just think, like,
Dilute the cost, spread it even
out.
more.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
no, it's a real worry.
Then you
what's
make
going
the
on with Chelsea.
player's life easier.
Well, this is
Because if you go to a player, he's an 8-year contract. On
Doesn't have
this
to
wage.
perform. It's getting to the point where, when Oscar went to China,
Yeah.
he's not caring about performing for the Chinese fans. He's there for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Chelsea players now that they don't care if Chelsea come first, second, or
It's also
11th.
hard
They
to
don't care.
Right? When you've got someone like Raheem Sterling, for example, who's come from Manchester City, coaches are the best in the world, the facilities are the best in the world, they have the money, but everything's run right. And then he's come to Chelsea. It's like, it's hard for me to get on board with this because it's a shit show.
Have you seen the difference as well in terms of Raheem Sterling? Like, one of the things that made him so successful at Man City and why Pep Guardiola loved him so much was because of his availability. He was never injured. He was the ever present. He was always available and generally always scoring goals. He's been injured at Chelsea for the season. Like, that can't be coincidental, can it? It can't.
That can be things like, my back's killing.
Maybe.
I've got a little knock, but I'm going to actually sit this one out. You know what I mean?
I know Sterling's personality from City. Like, he's not that kind of guy.
No,
I
but
know
what
what
I'm
you're trying
saying
to say.
is, when you're having a great time at school and you're a little bit ill, you're going to go in. But when you don't want to go in
I know what you mean,
and you're a little bit ill,
Everything hurts a little bit more.
I can't. I'm ill today. You know what I mean? It's like,
The other thing with him, with everything that you've said here about Chelsea, let's bring it back now to Pochettino. Do you think that Pochettino is the man to kind of stand up to this culture that's developing at Chelsea? Do you think Pochettino is the man to say to Todd Bowley, actually, mate, you're not welcome in the dressing room?
I think if he's given a distance between him and the board, and he's given the power, like we hear that the negotiations are different to last time. He's been given more leeway to do what he wants. I think if he's given that power on the training room, with the academy, with the first team, and he can get rid of whoever he wants to, Chelsea will be in a much better position for it, and I think he will be a success.
No, but do you think he has effectively what you have to have there is the gumption and the aggression and the
balls, to be able
balls, really? Yeah, that's
because you might go beforehand. I'm getting rid of Aubameyang when I get in the job, and then you get in the job, and then you go, Aubameyang's not going anywhere, and you go, actually, all right, I'll keep you around because he might score a goal, and you're just kind of fooling yourself. It's like,
but the big one will be actually pushing back to Bowley. So when Bowley goes, whatever it is, Bowley goes, I'm coming to the dressing. I want to. Or it could even be as simple as this over a coffee. Todd Bowley says to Pochettino, I think that you should start N'Golo Kante up front. Because I do think that happens. Thomas Tuchel alluded to that, didn't he, with the suggestion about the formation. Is Pochettino a strong enough character to not allow that kind of culture to flourish, where the ownership are dictating the...
He dealt with Daniel Levy.
Yeah, he didn't deal with the...
But he lost that battle.
No,
the thing with Pochettino is
he didn't lose. He wasn't losing it the whole time.
He got sacked. He asked for two summer transfer windows where he needed backing. I think he's gone into Chelsea. It's almost too much at Chelsea now. At Spurs, he didn't have enough. After the Champions League final, they should have signed 4 or 5 players
going into that season.
50 million.
Into that season,
yeah,
they signed somebody going into that season. It could have been
an extra man in each position of decent
They
quality.
literally signed nobody, did they?
They signed for 2 years.
I know.
It's one keeper maybe or something.
Crazy.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
So, but at Chelsea, he's now got the opposite situation. They've got 30 odd players there that are all bang average.
They need to just go, well, let's I've got to stop everything.
Pochettino might end up.
No money can be spent.
The trouble is, we need to sign a striker.
Mental.
Like we
You got Nkunku.
no, but he's not the. We need a Diego Costa, Didier Drogba. He's not going to be that.
There aren't many around, mate. Who are they?
I've got a
Osman's the only
feeling
one.
Poch gets in Cones here, you know.